Hello, lovely friends. Oh, okay. Well, through the grapevine and a few YouTube videos that I get updates, I guess I have the bell on for them. I become aware that Doreen has posted becoming the epic list of avoidance. Now, to me, this list mostly applies to those who are trying to follow a Christian faith. Okay, Doreen's continuing along her path, and unfortunately, this path is leading her to a place of that many of us who are not swinging that way can't come to a peaceful understanding on that, I don't think. And I'm not even hostile towards her. I mean, I know where this is coming from. She's gone to a very conservative place. She's going to a very, I don't know if they consider it, I think it's like right-winged, I think they call it. Basically, very conservative Christian view. I went and explored some things outside of this specific list, okay? There's some things on it like there's some things on it that are just ridiculous, and a lot of them are native practices that predate Christianity. Many people have put out some really good thoughts and pointed out some really good things. I have to say, not everybody argued their point that well. I just think that came from a place of not really knowing some of the practices that she had put on her list. And I don't want to debate any of that. I'm just going to say that I feel that when you tell people that practices that come from ancient cultures that have done a lot of healing work for people, that are part of, say India's culture and its spirituality, Native American culture, its spirituality, all these different people whose spirituality predates Christianity or even the Jews or any of that, having the arrogance to think that we're going to just change our minds and kind of go that way is kind of odd. It's kind of egotistical. I know I had said that she was trying to fall away from ego and follow her God's advice, and I still feel that is true. She has blatantly said that so many times. I haven't watched everything she's done. I kind of skimmed through a few things just to see if my intuition was correct on where she was kind of leaning to, and I feel that I'm mostly in line in my thinking, in the sense that I am correct, that she is following a very conservative Christian path. She is following the path that is supposedly made clear through the Bible as it stands now. And this is the King James Version and some kind of updated Bible version that's supposed to be like you study the Bible for a year and it has a whole guideline. She has a video on it. I think it's on her YouTube stream. I don't know. I didn't watch anything long enough to get too deep in it because frankly, I just don't care, okay? In the sense that I've already had my separation from her. I'm very upset for the disrespect she's showing to other spiritual paths and practices. It upsets me even more in just a bit because, she was part of all this and now she's going so extreme, and she says she isn't aiming at particular people or particular things, but she is. She's calling everything the devil's work or work of demons. And that's so... that just seems like the Christian path and its frame of mind when it comes to a very conservative Christian path. These are all things I've heard them say. She is not saying anything new. She is not saying anything that we haven't heard from those conservatives that some of us, many of us, turned away from because we did not fit there. We figured out it wasn't our place, it wasn't our path. And her message that she's giving with this avoid these New Age practices is for those who are looking for whatever that is, that extreme Christian love Jesus, nothing else, listen only to him path. So I don't want to rehash everything on the list. You can go to her website, and I'm not even going to post it. Just type Doreen Virtue, go to her website / blog, whatever it is. It's up now. It's working. I had clicked the link through, I think Lou. I can't remember her full name right now, but she's kind of rock and roll. Really fun lady, does astrology weekly videos. And it was I don't know if it was a broken link, but every time I've tried to press through Lou's thing, it doesn't work. But when I searched it on the search engine, it comes right up. Now, if you don't want to honor that, some of our local pagan or other new age light workers, whatever, have kind of copy pasted onto their Facebook. So indirect, look at it if you can. I just don't want to feed it. There was only a couple things that I want to say. She kind of has a few things on there. Two, she makes direct comments about pagan faith and Wicca. I'm not even Wicca, but I do follow some craft practices and beliefs, and I mix Druidry and fairy faith. I mostly work with Mother Earth and what I see as the allies in nature allies and animal allies. And as I said before, I work with people's personal currents and things that they've built up around them with all that. So to me, to say that other people's gods and goddesses are demons or come from the devil or whatever the heck she's saying on there, that is just so disrespectful. That is a classic Christian move way back in the original times when they were trying to undermine the pagan faiths and take the people away from their spiritual paths and cultural norms. And it's just a repetitive same old, okay? The fact that she's embraced it so much and she's found some kind of peace through following what she sees as the voice of Christ. And she had this, you can go back and look, and she's shared the story a couple times if you really want to find it, that she saw Christ and fell in love with him. Fine, love Christ, it's all good. But do you really have to disrespect a bunch of other faiths? And kind of, I don't know. I just feel like she's going about this in a very negative way. I don't think any of us really need it. And I don't think we need to pay attention to her anymore. She's basically gone in a direction that isn't helpful for any of us. And she's devaluing a life path of many people who've pulled themselves up, pulled themselves together. We're eclectic. Some of us, we have reached back to our ancestral faiths or back to Mother Earth or deities that we are able to create a connection to that feels genuine and real and supportive and predates her Christian God. And I mean, in his writings, he says to be part of his faith, you have to love him above all others. If that's what you want to do, do it. Okay. In that faith, it says a lot of different things like, don't suffer which to live. Actually, in the original language, it said, do not suffer a poisoner to live. There's so much language shifting going on here. If you're coming from, don't follow the King James version of the Bible, read the actual Dead Sea Scrolls. If you're going to follow this faith of Christianity, find the original writings and don't just take it from a modern book that went through this huge edit way back in, I think it was supposed to be, I can't remember the dates now. I'm so frustrated with this kind of thing. It's pushed buttons for me because this is the exact one of a handful of reasons why I don't feel pulled towards angel work. I don't want to touch the Christian faith. One of the reasons why I kind of struggle with tarot off and on, and I enjoy tarot decks that are a bit more oracle and not quite so true to a steady form of tarot or a really set structured system that dates, further back. And I don't enjoy Marcelli's decks. I hope I said that correct. Pip decks that have that more older Celtic culture from the Italian Renaissance, because it has so much of that Christian symbology that does not represent my life or how I structure my life now, or when I'm advising people. I read for all kinds of people, Christians and all different types of faiths and stuff. A lot of in people from India, because I read online and over an app, who have a totally different faith and nothing to do with Christianity and all this stuff. It's very refreshing in a way, because I can use many different methods to connect and help them work through their issues. So, and if I missed your question, I'm so sorry, Eleni. I was in my rant. No, I do not think tarot reading is a sin. I actually feel that it's in history. There have been seers, prophets, people of intuitive senses, use of runes and other symbols and tools to help seek wisdom through all cultures. Even there's been evidence of these kind of tools used way back into the caveman times. So I can't remember it right off the top of my head, but I did take a couple of anthropology classes and did some research back then. I don't like the term psychic because it's very sensationalized, but I do consider myself sensitive. I am sensitive to feelings, information. Yes, I think most people are, actually. I just think some of us listen a little bit better than others. Some of us were not able to block it. Some of us are just more sensitive to it. I feel that, mother's intuition is just one step away from being able to go farther. I get some information about near future stuff. I have had dreams that I had for a couple of years that actually happened. I believe there are certain set things that are that set up that are kind of unavoidable, but I feel there's a lot of things in life that are adaptive, that are opportunities that are kind of built in, but not necessarily are going to be sought. So yes, I do believe it's possible to get future information. I tend to like to stay focused more on the time period around the now, because so much of what we experience in the now ripples out in both directions, actually. Being linear is very much a modern concept. But it is such an ingrained concept taught from. Yeah, I don't believe that. I believe that there are maybe certain things that are fairly well set, and that if enough things feed it, that it will make it more and more, I don't want to say concrete, but like encourage it to still be a set thing. Just because I've seen so many what I call intuitives instead of psychic, because I do believe there's like what I would say pure psychics who get incredible information. I don't know that I am that far into it. I do know that I feel things that and have had information that I could not have known. A lot of people, I've known things that have made people stay away from me because they don't want me sensing things that I've been able to detect. I've met people who are more the psychics, that when people say psychics, I've met people like that, people who can pop names out, people who can tell you, on this street, at this cross quarter, all that kind of stuff. I feel that is another type of psychic knowledge. So. Oh, I see. Well, that's not really the topic of what I was going to talk about tonight. But I would be open to possibly helping you. If you message me privately. Maybe we can look into that. But a lot of times when people have confusing love lives or conflicting readings, it's because you're following a set pattern and you haven't figured out what the pattern is that you're following that isn't working. And that's not everybody, but a good deal of the time. If you can't get out of a pattern that it isn't leading you to the love you're hoping for, there's usually some kind of pattern that you've stuck with that's blocking you from that love you're seeking, or a love coming into your life. So I would look at your patterns and see what may be blocking it from coming to you. And if you want to communicate with me privately, I'd be happy to explore that. Yeah. Yeah. So tonight I came in because of Doreen Virtue. I actually was trying to prep to show a second half of a kind of a walkthrough / opening to a deck that I had shown last week. I was going to get into the second deck, but this came up and I was like, am I even going to do this video or respond to that? And I decided that I probably should, because last time around I was very understanding of this shift that Doreen has gone through. And I'm cool with her finding a love relationship with Jesus Christ. It's not my path. I don't want to go there. I'm not going to listen to her tell me that many things and paths and spiritualities and practices that I deeply respect, if not use in myself. She's calling it demonic. She's calling it, I mean, I didn't actually read the word sinful, but she's hinting that if you're going to follow the true path to Christ, that you need to pray only to him and turn your back on all those things. Well, I'm not following a path to Christ. I respect everybody who feels pulled to that path. I have no problem with it in the idea of a good guideline and a life path for other people. But as a sensitive and someone who has experienced things supposedly under the protection of Christ or God or the Holy Spirit, that you would think it wouldn't happen that way. I just had to find a different path. And I was pulled very strongly, and it always had a huge connection to nature. And I had always had weird intuitive hits about things that adults around me were uncomfortable with. And they let me know pretty quickly that it wasn't acceptable within a Christian household. So from my background, following such a different angle or path than Doreen is, I don't want to disrespect her. I'm just saying she's definitely on a very conservative path. So if you are upset by what she's saying right now, she is kind of being disrespectful, but that, I hate to say, is kind of a trend when it comes to what they call, I'm trying to think of the word because I don't hardly ever use it. I think it's called, it's when you're actively going out and kind of recruiting people for Christ or for the Christian faith. I believe that if you do not set protections and do not have a good connection to paths that you know are safe when you're going to do readings, that yes, you could get misleading information, yes. But most true practitioners who have had any training in working with one's own currents and touching, if not flowing, with another person's currents for readings are trained with protective practices. We study to sense whether something is from a positive place or something is, like you're saying, misguiding or evil. There's a lot of things we're trained for. A very new, intuitive person exploring this without also studying protective methods, yes, you could be tapping into something not necessarily positive. However, Protective measures are very simple in some cases. And usually if you're not very strong at first, you're not really going to draw the attention of that kind of entity that you're asking about here. Anything that's telling you to hurt yourself or has nothing but negative things to say, those are warning signs of what's trying to communicate to you or through you. Okay. A true wise wisdom information coming through does not have those tones. They won't always be an affirmative for everything, but they're not going to be anything that leads you into any danger or negative self-worth, anything that becomes unhealthy in that sense. You can tell the difference pretty fast. And it's usually those types that are just playing with it, those types of people who are just kind of playing with it and not really taking it seriously. Yeah, you can be vulnerable to things. But when you follow a path like the craft or druidry, you're usually taught a lot of protective practices and how to read energy, what's good flowing current, what's doesn't feel natural, all these kind of things for protection. Yes, that is what Christians think. They think we're just allowing ourselves to be open to anything and are just kind of naive and willing to believe anything that comes through. And that's just not true. That's not by true practitioners, not by people who are studying and truly taking the time to make sure that they are, trying to be a good channel for higher purpose for serving our fellow siblings of earth or spiritual beings. Yeah, and that's the sad part on this. A lot of people are taking a very aggressive, as the title of this live video is, I worded it that way because a lot of people are taking it that way. They're taking it as disrespectful. I'm treading as softly as I can because I feel that she's not saying anything new. It's just new for her. And people are still very hurt of this direction she's taken. And I feel that we need to put this in perspective. If she was saying something radically new, I could see a lot more things going on. But I also feel that, I do not feel that unicorns are evil. Matter of fact, I feel that the energy most people connect with that are, not evil. In no way connected to that kind of thing. She's talking about crystals being evil. Those are creations of. They're part of the earth. They're an energy vibrating tool. They are literally part of our body. Some of the same chemicals in those stones are chemicals that are in our bodies, and they are not. If you take something that's like a chemical that's harmful, then yeah, that's harmful, but that's not demonic. Oh, she's very aware. She's was in the New Age, as she's putting it, community for enough years. She had meditations and all kinds of stuff. What's going on with her is that the teachings of the very conservative Christian faith teach that these things are sinful and everything that isn't of Christ or God is demonic. That's the teaching. And if you're a more liberal Christian or a more, I guess you could say, modern thinking Christian, you won't necessarily take that view because you know that there is an very old worldview, and then the modern things of science and things have shown us and disproven some of these old ideas, and we've adapted our spiritualities to include these more modern things that we've discovered through science and other methods. So, are crystals demonic? No. I agree, but I don't believe that of her. And excuse me, I gotta move my leg. She is getting older. She may be being manipulated by some people around her. A lot of people, when they reach an older age, are at a time period when they're trying to make peace with their God. so that when they meet their time, that they are ready and have done the work to be accepted unto them, because they have a fear base of, are they going to get to go to heaven, or is there a hell? I personally don't believe that. Even my son, who I've raised to be open to many different faiths, is a little fearful of hell, just because he sees it so much in media, and it's an underlying message within so much of modern society. Because let's face it, the Christians have a very populated faith, and it's interwoven in a lot of the media and everything. Yeah, when you hear things a time and times, you start to believe it. I totally agree. And well, if you're not trained how to listen to things and figure them out for yourselves. But in this case, I'm not going to try to presume where she's coming from and why she's doing what she's doing. I do feel that the only thing I'm sure of is that she's gone to a very conservative Christian place. She's going to a path that's very, very different than what she was raised in. I feel that she's trying to correct herself at the age she's at. She's trying again to possibly make peace and make amends. But I don't know for sure. I'm going to be very honest. I'm not trying to read into that, because I definitely don't want to basically tag on to that energy. And yeah, I think there is good and bad, but I am not willing to say the devil made me do it, or her do it, or blah, 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 blah. I don't believe in that kind of thing. I feel it's disrespectful, whether her intentions are meant to be disrespectful. On one level, I think no, but I also think that she's gotten very used to having kind of a powerful voice in whatever community she's dwelling in. And sometimes when you are in that kind of position, you do not recognize when you're being disrespectful. You think you're just speaking truth, and that it's perfectly fine to speak the truth. And if you're coming from that perspective, she thinks she is doing a service and trying to protect people's souls and get them back to Christ. She's in the mind frame that only Jesus and Christ is the only path at this point. Most people in that kind of conservative place are more concerned about saving souls than understanding their being. Oh, that's the term, proselytizing. That's the term. It is an indoctrined, heavily emphasized practice to proselytize amongst the conservative Christian sect, and even some liberals, the born-agains especially. Let's see, Jehovah's Witnesses. I think we've all had that knock on the door here in the US. I can't say about everywhere else. So we got to understand that perspective. And just at this point, if you're not interested in following where she's going, don't listen to her. If you feel that you need to evaluate and explore it and come to your own decision, I respect that completely. But I just want to, like I said, kind of in the same terms as the last one, I just want to say that I feel that it is disrespectful. I do not respect proselytization. I did one or two times in my youth as a pagan unintentionally proselytize about the goddess. But I had just come out of Christianity. I was so filled with hope and love of my new path that I, midway in the middle of it, realized what I was doing, apologized to the person I was talking to, and stopped. And ever since then, I've tried to be very careful not to proselytize my pagan faith and my paths to other people. If people want to ask me about it and have a respectful conversation about differences, I welcome that wholeheartedly. But she's not doing that. She's putting out her message. She's only welcoming positive feedback. I was reading a couple places that they feel that there is part of the reason why the website with the New Age and the stuff is evil, whatever, was off for a little bit or not working right was because they were doing some kind of edit on the comments. And now if you look at the comments below it, only positive things are on there. That's kind of iffy. That's not great. Okay. So I'm not trying to put a dig at her. I'm just saying, for your own peace of mind, your own perspectives, this kind of conservative proselytization practice does not respect other faiths. It's only focused on setting these very firm lines of what's demonic and what is of Christ or Jesus in their mind. And if you're going to get upset about it, you need to understand what that is. This is not original. This is not new. This is very, this is their MO. Okay. This is what many of them truly believe. And like I said, I am not here to tell them they need to change their path or they need to leave that faith because it's harmful. But I will not become part of a faith or follow some God that actually allows people to be judgmental and harmful to other people in the way that I have found Christianity to be some of the time, depending on how it's shared, on how it's used as an excuse or a justification. If someone tells you something is demonic, it's the equivalent of saying that it is sinful. That demonic and sinful go hand in hand. Yeah, I get that. But the truth is when someone tells you something's demonic, they mean pretty much the same thing. There has not been one instance that I've heard either one of those that very shortly I haven't heard something of the other. I think that she's earnest and that she does get very fixated on what she gets earnest and what fills her heart at the time. And I don't, I would love to know if she acknowledges within herself how that is affecting others. And if she, I mean, if you're truly following something that you believe in and that you've become in love with something, you don't think you're doing something wrong. So that's a very hard thing to deal with. And I think I would advise to go look at some of the YouTube videos she's put out in the last couple months. I would say in the last 4 months. I only watched a very small handful, and it was enough for me to go, oh, okay, I see where she's coming from now. Ugh, I'm a little sad. I don't want to go there. I'm done. And I backed out. She's pointed out that she isn't making money off of this. At least not say she I think wrote a book and she's giving it away for free as an ebook. She mentions that there is a hard copy of it that all you're paying is for the printing of it. I think she's on a very, very different path. The fact that it's harmful and possibly harmful, I should say, and very much emotionally hurting people is more my concern. And I would ask that at this point, the idea of just taking things with a grain of salt is not going to work. I think at this point, if you don't feel in a line with her, you need to start not listening and not engaging. And this was going to be my last time even engaging in this. I just was like, wow. Some of the stuff she put on that list and how she worded it wasn't really well written. It was only quoting or referring to 2 resources. And I'm sorry, if people resource the King James Bible to me, I always say, I'm not listening to you unless you're going to talk to me through the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are not as manipulated as the King James version of the Bible or some of the more modern takes on the Bible. I know there are quite a few. I have not bothered to read any of them in quite some time because it's not my path, and I don't follow that stream. Now, let me be clear on a couple things here. There are quite a few people who work with angels. I don't. I know that some people in our community are very affected by some of the stuff that she is saying about not working with angels, that you should only be working through God, those kind of things. And it's just rubbing salt into a wound at this point for those who took her classes and really made her oracles part of their tool set. In my last video along some of this, I offered a few alternatives that people can look into. There's so much more, even a couple years now down. I think it was like 2017 I made that other video. Now we're in 2019. I know there's been a lot printed since then. I know there are other people to talk to and follow. I cannot say how sincere she is or not. I do feel what I have felt recently when I connected with the energy and was watching her. I feel that she is in her heart sincere about what she's feeling now. But I had one other point that I wanted to bring up. When she was talking about this instance that she had at this church and she saw Christ, I don't think she can give a refund. I don't think she has the money to. She did a lot of nonprofit stuff on the side. She doesn't have the money. Even if she had a thought to do that, she doesn't have the money to do that. And besides, asking for a refund is saying that you got no value out of it. I didn't go asking for refunds on the Bibles or other Christian memorabilia that I had when I left the faith. I just donated the stuff and passed it on to people I thought who could use it and did a clean break. That kind of interaction with goods and funds is a very tricky slope. I would say that maybe if people were interested in that they need to talk to someone in legal capacity. Yeah, that's a point. Maybe she should feel like that. But she's even said at the time she was very sincere. She didn't know any better. She was raised in an alternative Christian path, kind of a love and light. And I can't remember what it was called. I remember reading about it years ago, but it was like not Seventh-day Adventist, but some other kind of Christian sect that they didn't read all of the Bible. They read certain parts of the Bible as part of their faith. And from what I understand, when she read what she considered the real Bible, read it from cover to cover, it made her have a totally different view on, it was one of the things that totally changed her view on her past activities. Now, one of the things I wanted to bring up was she has a video where she's holding up, I don't know if it's a painting, a sketch, or something, but it has a white Jesus on it. I find that very problematic. And it amuses me every single time that I see a white Jesus, because there is no way that Jesus was white. At best, he would have been olive toned. More likely, he would have been closer to, I don't know. I don't know that he would have been what we call here in the States a black. He would have had a tanned to dark toned skin color. And every single time I see a white Jesus, it just makes me laugh. Because it's just not a truth. And there's so many people of some extreme faiths or sects of Christianity and other groups in the US and other places around the world that wrap an identity around a white Jesus. And it just, it's just not a truth. And I just wish that people who were following the Christian faith were being able to follow have a symbol of Christ that would be closer to the truth than what they're being shown. And one of the ways, the reason I bring that up is because if she saw a white Jesus when she had this moment, then she was only filtering part of the truth of what was happening at the time that she fell in love with Jesus. Because I got the impression that the painting or picture she was showing was supposedly what Jesus looked like when she fell in love with him and had this deeper connection with him. And I just, that's one of the ways that I kind of can't take some of this all that seriously, but it's also more than I acknowledge myself as not a Christian, and I don't wish to bash the Christian faith at all. She just happens to be Christian. She just happens to be doing all this stuff. Yeah, so Middle Eastern, African, yes, because of the location, the ancestry, yeah. I personally feel that whenever I see deity forms that are human in shape and body, that is only seeing one facet that we can connect to and identify with, because we are beings in a human shaped body. Most beings on this earth were not in human shaped bodies. Therefore, I don't think true deity forms, true creator would be in a human form. I think that's our way of making it more understandable, of self-identifying, and also another method of making us on, if not equal standing, but of his chosen people, as I've heard some people say when they're talking about Jehovah or Jesus or Christ or those kind of things. Jesus himself, yes, he was definitely Middle Eastern African. Yes. I feel that we are energy beings, fluid beings. You can say we are spirit, yes, but I also feel that we are very physical. We live in physical bodies. We are vibrating energetic beings, but we have a lot of elements involved in our bodies and our spirit. We talk about emotions as liquid. We talk about energy as something similar to fire or lightning. So I think it's more complex than we say it, and I really don't like the idea of seeking enlightenment in the sense that we're trying to rise above our life experience, because this is the only thing we can really truly experience in the here and now. And always seeking something after leaves you not helping you deal with the today, and it leaves you not dealing with it, what's important now. In some ways. And that's a whole nother conversation. So I would just have people, no, I don't think what we experience is an illusion. No, I do not. I think that's a way to make us not take responsibility for everything around us. I feel that we are, I will say we are vibrational beings, that there are things around us. Can I tap into what I just said? Well, when you touch someone's hand, that touch will be felt not just that day, but you'll have a memory or a moment or something more that carries forward. So think of that hug or that moment that you had with a loved one, and how you will recall it, and you'll feel a sensation in your body connected to that, and it pulls forward, and it is something that you will carry for some time. Now, if we were just an illusion, if we were just, if it wasn't something real, would we carry it forward that way? No. We wouldn't have that physical memory. Now, I do believe that some people carry things in different ways, like different types of learning styles, different types of memory types, different ways that different spirits carry things forward. That's why there are so many different types of intuitives/psychics. I'm a feeler, and for me, feeling isn't just emotional feeling. I physically feel things. So when I read for people, I tend to like them to have either showered or bathed before they let me read them, because there's certain things that you do in the day that I don't want to feel. There's certain intimacies that I don't need to feel, or that people want to keep private, and I'm respectful of that. So yeah. And because I don't feel that it's an illusion, like thinking about something and not actually having it physically carry out, that could be considered an illusion, because you just imagined that it happened. Okay. You didn't do something active. You didn't affect someone else with those thoughts. Now, I've met people who say even thoughts can affect other people. Well, that's if you're putting a vibration to push it out there. If you're really just having a thought to go, oh, what are my options, and how could this work, and okay, yeah, I don't really want to do it that way, I'll let that go. That's not putting it out there. Okay. That is the closest you can get to an illusion, as far as I'm concerned. The things you actually experience, feel, touch, activate, speak out, those happen. People react to it. The very environment you are in holds those vibrations. So yeah, that's why I don't feel like it's an illusion. Now, maybe I'm looking at illusion differently than other people look at illusion. But that's how I feel it, and that's how I think about it. So, all right. Yeah. Yeah, like I have some stones. Matter of fact, I went to a New Age store recently, a metaphysical shop, actually. Oh, yes, I want to say yes to that. With the understanding that I don't know exactly how it works, I do feel that decisions, that's partially how I do readings, actually. I feel that one decision, if it's done with enough intent and is a focused decision to try to change your path, can added to the decision an action, or two very different actions can show you two different paths and how they can lead off and what could happen. I think that's what you're reading when you're looking at possibilities and pathways for people. I believe you're tapping into the parallel, the other option. And I believe that there's usually more than two options. I believe that there is kind of multiple things. I feel like there's never just two options. I feel that we're not always aware of the other options that are more than just the binary. But yeah, I feel that what we're trained to perceive and experience is not all that we experience all the time. And if we were trained to be more open, and that it wasn't just the logical or just a certain kind of mindset that we're trained to live within here, that we would be more aware of it, or that we would be more respectful of those who are aware of it and can't tune it out. Yeah, it's complicated. I think that science has always been a great method to explore and move beyond our current understanding on things, which is why we have a better understanding of why crystal watches and quartz crystal is not just a pretty stone, right? It actually moves and holds energy. It's something we can actively use. And even the ancients were aware that there was something different about quartz. We understand better how it works now than they did then. Back then it was a mystical thing, and they put kind of I feel very connected to the to some of the thought forms of uh, everything around us having some kind of consciousness. What kind of consciousness is the question, and how aware it is another question. But I think that humans put a lot of ego on how high up on the food chain we are, that we're not trained to the subtle energies and consciousness around us, and that's what some sensitives read and include in the currents of what they're experiencing to help us get information about things. It's also what you work with when you're doing prayer work, if you're in a pagan path or say a path of the craft or something like that. That's part of the energy you're working with to manifest things. Yeah, I do believe that we create our future. I believe that our ancestry adds energy into certain streams or tendencies in our current lives and leading into the future. I believe that we can shift our futures by our actions and choices as well. It's how focused and determined you are, and certain other factors that can affect things. I don't believe anything's, like I said, totally, like the whole term written in stone. No, I do believe certain things are very set, because sometimes, like say an event like let's take like a tsunami. Okay. When that happened, I'm going to just adjust this a little. When we've had a few tsunamis a few years back, as everybody knows, when that happened, there was enough focus of some kind of shift or change that an event took place. The earth reacted to its pressures and other factors, that a lot of things built into it, and it was happening. There were sensitives and other scientific gadgets sensing tension and stress and other things, that there was an awareness that something could happen. Now, on a smaller scale, look at the political atmospheres in different places. People are aware when things are getting tense and unsafe. It hardly ever truly happens out of the blue. Take 9/11. There's been proof that certain people had hints that something was going to happen. They just didn't necessarily act on it. So yeah, I do believe that we can create our futures. I do think that there's certain parts that have heavier streams set, and that it takes a bit more work to shift those kind of strings if you want to change it in a different direction or just change your part in it. But yeah, I don't think anything is completely set in stone. It's just that we have to put in a greater effort in some situations if we want to shift it. And some things are not as set as people tell us they are. So yeah. And I'm not trying to speak around it or wrap around it or do anything weird. I just don't feel things are as clean cut as people would like them to be. And I would say that's even true on Doreen's path and a lot of our spiritual paths that we're exploring. Oh, goodness. I didn't think I'd be on here this long, but it is nice to talk with you. Okay. You're very welcome. Awesome. I believe in one of my one or two of the videos behind, I did give a link on the website I do readings on, so if you're interested in that. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind if you contact me through messages. That's fine. All right. Okay, so a little bit on topic, a little bit off topic. Thank you. If it's the website, that's more of an informational page. If you look at a site called Purple Ocean, that's where I do readings most often. And right now my pricing is very low. But if you just want to talk a little advisory, feel free. I think I have an email or Facebook connection up on my I think, our channel homepage here. I know I have to update some things, but everything should still be relevant. It's just updating the look, that kind of stuff. So, key points for anybody else who watches this later, what have you. Just understand that she's not really saying anything new. You're welcome. It's Eleni. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm not really sure, but it's pretty. I'll learn to pronounce it. I'll look up the pronunciation. Eleni? Okay. Thank you. You're welcome. Eleni. Oh, that's pretty. Okay. So keep that in mind, folks, when you're looking at Doreen Virtue's stuff. Don't get too heated. She's not saying anything new. The path she's on, especially from what she's allowing herself to publish right now, or at least on her blog or website, is very conservative Christian, on a very basically proselytizing path. And to get upset over it, to go and get yourself out of sorts over what she's doing now, is not going to help you or anybody else. And understand that only those who are seeking that kind of community, that kind of stream or path to live and walk upon, are going to be drawn to that. Those who are questioning and can think for themselves will explore other things, and that's what we need to keep in mind and be ready. As a pagan, my thought has always been, as I mentioned earlier, to not proselytize, to only speak of my faith when people share a true interest. And those who want to explore for themselves whether something is demonic or sinful or good or evil will come and explore it. And we need to just be ready to put our best foot forward in a way, if that's what we want to do. There's no need to, I don't want to sound negative, but basically there's no need to waste our energy on a path that we obviously are not following with her. So I will let it go at that and understand that I'm not trying to bash her. I'm just trying to identify, in a way, the path that she's following right now and why she would be so negative. Basically because I've heard these statements before, and there are others who have said it themselves, that they've heard it, that they could almost say the words before they heard her say it, or before they read the next few words, they knew where it was going. So this is not new ideas. She's just allowing herself to be someone who published it on the web and taking it from other sources that have said it before her. And in her mind, she's following a path that Jesus has given her. And if you're not on that path, what she's saying isn't going to mean anything to you. It might make you sad because if she was so connected to your path before, but she's on another route, another way now. And we just need to let it go and not feed it anymore. I am very happy to speak on those subjects that I actually know about, such as working with nature energy, the animal allies, Mother Earth herself. To me, everything has consciousness and communicates with us all the time. Whether we hear it or not is another thing altogether, and that takes time outdoors or spending time with animals. If you are unable to spend a lot of time outdoors, there are other ways to connect with nature's energy, because we are beings of nature. Whether we like to think of ourselves as that or not, understand that some of the thought form of us being other is when we are raised that we are basically beings of God. And that isn't necessarily a bad thought, but when it makes you put yourself above nature, I don't personally feel that's a good thing, because our bodies come from nature. We do spend cycles exploring different lessons. It even says within the Christian text, if that's what you follow, that we explore different lessons in life, and that this is a learning ground. I personally feel that this is a living place, that we experience life, that we go through several cycles, that we are in our heaven, as it is, if you want to think of the terms heaven. I do not think that this is a place of hell, as I've heard some Christians call it, and even have read some things on. I feel that there's too much binary thought, that there are many shades of gray in between, and that there's also loops and curves and twistiness and spirals. It's not a clean straight line from here to there. And where she's gone is definitely a set path that not all of us can follow or even want to. You have to decide for yourself, if you are a follower of Christ, how far you want to go along that path. I personally feel that, as someone of mostly European descent, I also have Native American descent within my family lines. My sister is even more mixed, because she's my half sister, and she has Asian and Japanese bloodlines and a dash of African American, along with whatever I have, which is mostly European and a little Native American. And so I feel that when you have these kind of backgrounds, you have ancestral lines to many different faiths and cultures, maybe even deities or allies, following ancestral paths. And that what she is dealing with is creating a relationship with a certain deity form on a certain religious path or spirituality, and it is not in line with her ancestral path, especially knowing where who Jesus was as a man, where his bloodline comes from, all that kind of stuff. And that even in the writings of the Bible or the Dead Sea Scrolls or what have you, it talks about how this particular God, Jehovah, demands of his followers that they follow no one but him. And then they also talk about the Holy Spirit and Christ and a few things. There are certain guidelines that you're supposed to follow if you're part of that faith. And technically, if you're not following those rules, then you're not in quite alignment with that faith. But I'm not part of that faith. And some of what we read in the Bible are actually writings of, they say it's channeled work. I'm sure some of it is, but a lot of it is editing, and a lot of it is fallacy from the humans who wrote it down from their own opinion and their own take on what they were shown. And so you can't take everything literal with the Bible. A matter of fact, even King James, when he did his edit on the Bible, and he wasn't the first, he made it to suit his own purposes at the time. And so I don't completely trust it. But that's just me, and that's why I'm not part of that faith. So please take your time when considering this. Please soften your heart and don't take it so personally, what she's doing. I don't agree with it either. I think more than half of what was written on there is, verging on the ridiculous, but it is part of the thought form and beliefs and teachings of the Bible and the things that they are working with in part of their faith, if you're following that path and that stream. So I always encourage people to bring in modern science and thought mixed with their research and studying of these things. Hello. I'm not sure I'm going to call you. Is it Birch or Britch? Anais. I have no idea how you say it. Terrell. If you were attracted to the title of the live, I'm happy to have your thoughts if you want to share them or voice. If you have questions about the topic, feel free to ask. Okay. Summary, real quick. Doreen Virtue, after some time of not posting much or saying anything too pointed, at least that I was aware of until recently. Basically, I believe on the 21st, she posted a list of New Age beliefs or practices that are to be avoided because they consider it evil. That Jesus considers it's evil, the Bible considers it evil. Within this list, a few of the topics, and this isn't even all of them, were that paganism, Wicca, practices like yoga, crystals, and unicorns are all demonic. Basically, that you shouldn't do empowerment things or meditation without including God or Jesus as part of the process. Otherwise, it makes it demonic. And there's more to the list. You can go to our website. Oh, I agree. We all have discernment. Yes. So the topic I was bringing up, or the slant I was talking about here, is that some of what she's doing is pretty much just typical of very conservative Christians. People on the proselytizing path. Yeah, good idea. That's pretty much what I'm saying. Avoid it. Don't take it personally. She's actually following a very typical path for people going this extreme way. Okay. She's gone from being I can't even remember what her original faith was. It was like a not Seventh Adventist, but one of those Christian paths that didn't believe in going to the hospital and praying it and praying things into your life, and that Jesus and God were very loving and supportive and all this stuff. I'm not saying that they can't be. I'm saying that certain views that these people have are, oh yes, scientist Christian, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, and that's true. Only the people who really believe in that and who are looking to bolster that belief are going to be very, very drawn to this article. And I feel that, yeah, I agree. I feel it's too extreme. But there's quite a few pagans out there. I've already seen more than a handful of videos and even writings responding to her. And it's good to be aware of what's happening. A lot of people put in time, care, and sunk a lot of themselves into her stream when she was more what she's calling new agey. But on my point, the first time when she first had this change of heart before it got to this, was that she's always been a Christian. She maybe was a light, inclusive, and liberal Christian, new agey Christian, if you will. But she's always been a Christian, and that her heart has been going closer and closer to Jesus for some time before all this happened. She had some kind of vision while in church and saw Christ in his very white form. I was going off on that a little bit earlier. It always amuses me when I see a white Jesus. There's no way he was white. But after that, she fell deeply in love with Jesus and has been spending a lot of time studying the Bible, more than she ever did as scientist Christian or whatever it was. And she found a lot of information that she didn't know before when she was doing all the stuff before, when she was doing the angel readings and all this other stuff. There's a lot about Christianity she wasn't aware of at the time. Now, I don't know that I completely believe that. She is an educated woman with a few degrees under her belt, and I'm not talking about woo-woo spiritual degrees. Some people have said it that way, and I'm just like, okay, so some of her certifications come from official sources, mundane. She can practice as a counselor and yada yada. People like that are aware. People with those kind of degrees are a bit smarter. So I feel that maybe she didn't know the depth of it or what she's saying. Exactly. That is true. The education here doesn't, equal spiritual energy healers and shamans. That's very true. But since a larger percentage of the people in our country are Christian than any other faith, and that's true in many modern countries, not all. There's some countries where, say, Hinduism and stuff like that is the main faith. But if you look on Google and you look up Christianity, you will find that it is a huge percentage higher of a faith around the world than almost any other faith in the world. I think the Hindus and one other faith are right after it. True. But when she's made quite a few changes in her life, which would have made her aware. And, you know, like I said, I'm not going to try to figure out where that's coming from. I'm just saying, from what she's written and the things that she's saying and where I've heard all this before, this is a standard. She's not saying anything new. She's saying things that are new to her, but she's saying very standard things that proselytizing, very conservative Christians say and believe. And this is their lifestyle and how they view the world. So that is what we need to take into account. Yeah, Islam would be one of the Hindu, Buddhism. Yes, those are very large percentage of the population of the world are these faiths. The pagan faiths are a smaller minority. They're growing yearly, but Christianity is the biggest religion out there. Yeah, I believe that Jesus lived at one point. I don't think he's the only deity out there, and I don't feel that he is the end-all be-all. And I'm very sure that Jehovah was not the only creator of everything. I just don't believe it. I actually don't feel it either. When I connect with nature, some of the things I've felt and have seen has shown me very different things. But Jesus as a spiritual teacher, as a figure of hope and love, I could see that. It's just that what she's talking about is, I mean, as far as I'm aware, Jesus didn't talk about demons a lot or demonic stuff. He was a healer. He was spreading the word of love. There was a lot of other things he did. Yeah, there are pagans. Yes. South Africa, Australia. Yep. Definitely very native peoples, indigenous peoples with their own faiths. Mm-hmm. Yes, that is the Jesus I remember hearing about when I was growing up. Now you got to understand, I am a pagan now. I've been a pagan since probably 18 or 19 years old. But I am someone who comes from a family of, let's see, I got to list them. I was raised amongst and introduced to many different sects of Christianity growing up. Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Baptists, Bible speakers, the Assembly of God group. I've been there. They got some really great Christian rock if you're into that. Let's see. I really like Quakers. I spent a bit of time with Quakers. Yeah, the only thing, my father and my grandmother on that side of the family and a good portion of that side of the family are Lutheran, Orthodox Lutheran. So I have a view of Christianity than more than just one sect of Christianity. Okay. The Christian rock that I am aware of, there's one church in Utah called B Rock, but that's a more modern church. The ones I got to spend a bit of time with were the Assembly of God. That's what their church is called. And I believe they're considered Pentecostal, but I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've been anywhere involved or near their places of worship or any part of that. For me, it was in, I lived in Texas for a little bit. So I had a lot of interaction with the Baptists, but mostly Northern and Southern California. with some time in Texas and a bit of time in Washington State. So yeah. I really love a lovely Southern accent. Yeah, oh, that's a total another subject, baptism and everything else. Yeah. Yeah, when I left the faith, I kind of had an unbaptism. Yeah. When I say stuff like that, some Christians get weird. You gotta understand, I have active Jehovah Witnesses, and there's whole sections of my family who won't let me near their kids because I am a pagan. I am a spiritual person. Oh yes, water is one of my favorite ways of healing work, cleansing, manifesting. Yes, I work with the land, sea, and sky. And to me, fire is the actual element. It is the one element that does not have a true home of its own. It blends all other realms of the earth. Fire cannot exist without earth or air. Oh, thank you. You know, I have a lot of Christians in my family, and I've had Jewish friends, and I've had many different faiths involved, even some Islam and others. As individuals, I have lots of love for everybody. It's when we take things to extremes that I have some issues, especially when those faiths infringe on other people's rights or happiness. I believe that that's when it gets a bit toxic, and that's what I have an issue with. Yeah. I kind of think of those as labels: fire, water, earth, and air. Those came from the Greek understanding of the elements. And it was actually an understanding of the physical, and it was like part of the beginnings of science and a logical thought form. The way nature sees those things is not the way we label them. It's very interesting to interact with nature and feel how it communicates what it is. Yeah, and you know what? If a Christian can be happy and live and let live, I have no problem with that. If they don't exactly agree with everything I do, then we don't have to participate in those things together, and they don't have to participate in what I do. But I also don't feel that it's my right to go and tell them what they're doing is wrong. They don't have a right to tell me that what I'm doing is wrong, as long as I'm not harming anybody or doing anything that infringes my will and beliefs on anybody else. It was one of the practices in one of the faiths I participated in that made me leave the faith, say Mormonism in particular, was the baptism of the dead. That's baptizing people who are dead and who have not given you permission to baptize their souls. That is a type of spell work on the dead, and I was not willing to participate in that. I have a problem with that. Because in other faiths, it's considered, well, it has different terms, and it really raises hairs. And yet we talk of baptism of the dead, and people act like it's no big deal. Yeah. And basically, you're telling a spirit or doing an action that could literally take a spirit from one place to another that it may not have wanted to go at all. And you're infringing your will on what you think is right on that spirit. And I don't agree with that at all. That's like telling a girl that she has to marry someone whether she wants to or not. That's not cool. Yeah, those kind of things I have a few issues with. I think modern people need a better understanding of the spiritual, and certain faiths don't carry that through. They don't have those teachings. They see it in a very different way, and I respect it. I feel that it's not getting a very good picture of things, but I understand where that's coming from, and I wasn't able or willing to live blindly that way. A matter of fact, I couldn't, because I was sensitive to some of the stuff they were talking about. And when people start telling you a lot of negative things, or oh, what are you saying there? There's a soul. I feel that whatever choices we made in life, when we die, we're going to most likely get a chance to be kind of, told and updated or communicated what you'll finally get to experience what is really there on the other side, right? And in that moment, you'll get a choice. Whatever that choice is, what is really there or what have you, you'll interact with it and you'll make your choice. I have seen enough things and felt enough things to know that the other side influences us and we influence the other side. That energy is continual. If you watch this later after it's done, you'll see I talked about how I don't feel we're living in an illusion, that we are material beings. That's cool. And that we can actually affect things. I also feel that things are not necessarily set in stone, although some things are firmer than others, and that it takes some really decisive action and decision making to shift things. So that's awesome. Choosing to live with your true love that's awesome. Yeah. So I wish that, in one sense, if Doreen Virtue had just said, to follow the true path of Christ, these are the things you would have to avoid, because it's not in line with Christ. That I can respect. But to go around telling people that it's demonic and evil and yada, yada, that's going to touch people the wrong way. And it has, from what I've been reading and seeing. And I am both sad and feel a bit disrespected, but oh, I see. When you look through your eyes, you're looking at your mind, and your mind can change what you view. Oh, that's an interesting view. That's cool. I am a multi-sensory being. Okay. Trippy, yeah. And part of the thing, someone asked me earlier if I thought I was psychic or if I believed in psychic. I believe I'm an intuitive and I'm a sensitive. I believe some people are more open to that energy or different kinds of sensory perception, if you will. And that due to that, you'll be able to feel things in different levels. With my interaction with nature energy, become aware of certain things. And a lot of what I sense shows me things I've heard and felt from others as well. And I don't like to proselytize. I don't like to push my views or my experiences on others unless they ask or they've had similar experiences. Yeah. And whether it's viewing or feeling them, because there's emotional feeling and then there's physically feeling or moving through something that may happen in the future. Usually if you can feel it, it has a stronger vibration in the sense of physically feeling it rather than emotionally feeling it. Although I feel that there can be quite a bit going on there too. And I think viewing it is definitely, yeah, you can hear things happening in the future. You can view it. You can taste it. There's so many different ways to experience that kind of information. And the fact that we can, being in the present, means that there is more of a physical process and a communication vibration, or what I call current, that's moving. In the sense that we're vibrational beings, and Earth vibrates at a certain speed and we vibrate at another. Because I personally feel we get our bodies from the Earth, so we're in sync with it, and that's how we're able to live here. We're not able to feel the fact that the Earth is moving so many miles per hour, and yet I'm sitting in one spot on the Earth. If we were truly out of sync with it, the Earth's motion would make most of us feel sick. But because we are born here, we're made to live here, we are mostly healthy here. Oh, I see. Yeah, I have heard of that before. I have felt that some people may have come from other places and have been born here, and if it's their first lifetime here, or if they didn't totally detach from that other place, that they do feel a little bit out of sync with the energy here. I have been aware of that with a few different people I've met through the years. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of awesome things to experience and come to understand about our physical world and spiritual world. I find it interesting people want to put such finite lines between the two, because through my experience of sensory experience, I kind of live with the idea and the feeling of consciousness of the Earth and all beings here. And when I say beings, I don't mean just living beings, but like the material world that is nature, as well as the living beings who develop and live on it and through it. And it depends on your body system. Some bodies don't do so well with more metals. Some bodies do. You have to see how your system responds to it. Because when you say energy patterns, there's biochemical energy that we have usually in living bodies, especially with the forms that we are made of. So you need to see how, as a matter of fact, you can get a blood test to see what your levels of like iron and such are in your bodies. And I know I get really staticky during thunderstorms. I actually have to be very careful of the blend of my clothing, because I carry static electricity and others very easily. I do believe what we eat, though, does affect our spiritual gifts. So in that sense, I would say, yes, it could affect you. But I also know that you can detect actual metals within the body through the bloodstream and stuff. So, yeah. I also feel that the cleaner the food you eat, the healthier you will be, and the clearer of a sensitive or channel you can be. I also feel that even if you don't have the healthiest diet, as long as you drink a lot of clean water and don't put too many excessive chemicals in your body otherwise, that you can be clear enough to be able to still be a fairly good channel. Because depending on economic ability or availability, will you be able to afford certain levels of food availability, right? Quality of food availability. Yeah. That's one area that I always felt Doreen Virtue had a pretty good hold of when she used to talk about vegetarian eating and helping it clear your body to be a better channel. I'm not a full vegetarian, but I have reduced a lot of gunk eating out of my system. Let's see. That's always interesting. Oh yeah. So do you do the fish with mostly vegetarian eating? That's the one, right? Ah, that's what my son's leaning towards. I prefer to eat that way, but my husband still enjoys some chicken and certain things occasionally. So, like tonight, I was not feeling, I actually can't eat wheat. My body does not respond to it well. I don't have celiac, but I am sensitive to it. Um, and I feel lighter and still full when I eat more along the lines of what you're talking about. But due to the wants and needs of the rest of the family, that sometimes affects what I get to take in. So yeah, so decreasing your meat consumption, yeah, that's kind of like what I did tonight. I had a salad I needed to get through. I had a cucumbers, I had some hummus. I have this very awesome salad dressing with no oil in it, and I had some tuna. And so I based my meal around the salad and just added some tuna into it without it being like the main part of the meal. And the hummus was another protein source. And so it turned out to be it filled me up and I felt really good afterwards. Yeah. Hands. Oh yeah. Yeah, my husband doesn't like zucchini, but I really like zucchini. He's not really fond of cucumbers either because he says they don't have much flavor. I feel like they clean the palate and they go really well with hummus, so I'm very much enjoy cucumbers. They're awesome in salads. And they are really good source of a liquid heavy vegetable, so I enjoy them. I when I was doing vegetarian eating, the only meat I truly craved and I have any problem with doing out without is fish. I can live without everything else for long, long periods of time. Um, but I do tend to crave fish occasionally. And so that I felt was a good compromise was to aim towards going that direction with the hope that I could go further. But it's hard when, like I said, you live in a household where, like, my husband's not really into it. My younger son has a lot of food issues, so I have that to tend with. But my older son is actually interested in the idea of it because he wants to have a lighter footprint. He cares about animals, but he doesn't feel as in touch with fish. And he wants to have a natural source that isn't artificial. So that is true. Fish do have metals in them, but we do have some metals in our blood, and it is kind of necessary. But it depends on the type of metal, right? Yeah, he's a very interesting young man. Yeah, my youngest is a total junk food junkie if he can get away with it. He likes meats and carbs and can't stand fruit or veggies. Yeah, but he loves his tomato sauce. I don't point out that it's a vegetable. Yeah, my older son loves fruits, veggies, certain ones, but he's more open to experimenting than my younger. Uh, and my younger son has some texture issues when it comes to food on in his mouth and on his palate. So whatever I can get him to eat is good. Matter of fact, I got him on V8 energy drinks because they're 50% actual juice, and he is not a veggie juice drinker, but he chugs those if I let him get away with it. He's only allowed to have one or two a day because they are an energy drink, and I don't want him doing that near sleepy time, you know? That's an awesome goal. I would like to get more closer to that myself. Um, making food closer to the earth or from the earth. Yeah. Yeah, Juicy Juice. I like the V8 stuff because it's a blend of veggies and fruit, and I want to encourage him as much as possible to get some of both. He is a child that just will not eat a veggie, but he will sometimes do a smoothie and things like that, mostly fruit-based, although he won't eat actual fruit itself. So, you do what you got to do to get the healthy stuff in a kid. I'm hoping over time he'll get more. He loves spaghetti, the sauce and everything. Yeah, the ones he's getting are these V8 energy drinks because they do have 50% juice, I believe. Some kind of V8 is actually not that heavy in juice or vegetables, although they do have some of the vitamins and minerals they're supposed to have. One of my friends has a mother who's a nutritionist who got kind of mad at V8, but there are certain V8 products that are higher in vegetables and juice than others. Yes, those are all awesome. Red rice, take supplements for cholesterol with those. And yeah, I actually really like curry. My husband's not as fond of Thai food. I don't really know why. I love me some Mexican food too. And but I really like I've been trying different things with potatoes because I can't do a lot of pastas. And so I've been trying different like cube potatoes with different seasonings and other natural things on them, besides just baked potatoes or mashed potatoes and things like that, to help. Yeah, potato soup. I love soups, but my boys don't, so I have to be picky about when I make those kind of things. But yeah, there's a lot of awesome stuff. And all the stuff we're talking about, the energetic energy of plants and the stuff we eat, there is a consciousness there. There's been a lot of testing that, I do like nochi, but not if there's wheat in it. I can't eat nochi. I have to do a nochi that's non-wheat or gluten-free. I feel that living food is good to eat, but I feel that if you can't quite do, say, like raw food, at least food as close to the source is awesome. Yeah, my kids don't like super Sues. There's texture issues going there too. I know, it's weird. Yeah, my kids couldn't drink milk. We had to have them on plant milks when they were babies and growing up. So yeah, not all soups have that, but so taking in, when they were younger, I didn't have as much energy to cook as much as I wanted to, although I did cook quite a bit. I made simple meals as much as possible. So now they're exploring food a bit more, but my younger son, even back then, had texture issues, so it restricted what I would feed him. Yeah. Oh, I love broccoli. I especially like artichoke hearts and they like crunchy foods. They like foods on bread. My younger son definitely has a sweet tooth, but that was not something he had necessarily at the beginning. He basically gets nervous about trying new textures and stuff. He gets fixated on things he really likes, and that's all he wants to eat. And so part of it's the texture, part of it's mental preference, and he likes potato bread and all kinds. They don't like oatmeal flakes on bread, that kind of thing. He has just started liking nachos this year. He does not like ketchup or sauces on things. He's pretty plain in that. He just recently allowed me to start putting like lemon pepper on the salmon I make. He liked it just with a bit of salt and pepper for a while, but not lemon pepper. That was too much. Yeah, kids are funny. Yeah, my older son loves ketchup, and they sometimes don't mind a bit of spice, but overall they don't like it. Yeah, but you know what? I tried making some stuff from scratch, and my husband and even the kids said that has next to no flavor. And I'm like, that's because you're used to eating certain kinds of foods that are, boxed or whatever. And I'm trying to make more natural foods. Yep. And so I have to up the seasonings a little bit when I try more natural foods and stuff. Oh, tomatoes. Oh, yeah. My favorite taco sauce is the green kind. And they're made with a certain kind of, I can't remember if it's an actual tomato or some kind of offshoot cousin. I usually know the name of them. It's on the bottle, but I love green taco sauce. We've been adding more and more seasonings to the kitchen. And I actually have a lot of nettle that grows behind my house. I kind of live in a forest here. I'm in a rainforest. Not in the sense of jungle, but I'm on the northwest here in the United States. And so when my friend who knows plants better than me, just out in the wild, she's like, oh my God, you got all these edible plants back here. If anything ever happened, you'd have some food sources. I was like, oh, cool. I like the idea of accessing. Oh, yeah. I like the idea of accessing natural resources. We used to go to berry patches and thorn patches and go pick berries and eat them. We always leave a certain amount behind for the animals. Never good to strip anything because you want it to. I know we have dandelion growing in the grass. I know we have the nettles in the back. She mentioned 2 other edible trees in the back that I can't think of off the top of my head. I'm trying to think. There was one in particular that I was remembering a little bit better. But just the nettles alone are really healthy. Dandelions can be a salad green. Most people think of it as a weed, but many weeds are edible. Not all, but many. And just not too far away is a bunch of thorn bushes with berries that grow. If I remember correctly, most of those are edible, yeah. Otherwise, I just have grass and a couple bushes that they planted around the house. Most of the area around me is forest. So I have to hike through a bit more to figure out what I have around. Like I said, my friend knows more about that than I do. I am one of those people that I lived in the mountains part of the time in Southern California when I was growing up, but I also lived by the ocean and I lived in the city a lot. So whenever I could go out in nature and sketch and just connect, I always did. And I have a stronger connection to animals. So yeah. Yeah, she's always, you should make a nettle cake. You should. I'm like, I don't want to get hurt by the nettle. Yeah. I still think it's good skills to learn. Yeah, we have a stream that leads out to a cove, just a few houses down from properties down from where we live. So it's cool. Oh yeah, that's a worthy goal to have your own land, build a house. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of things on YouTube about building your own little houses and other things as well. If I got land, I don't know that I would build a house on it. I think I might try doing a yurt or a mobile home that can be stabilized and then moved later, that kind of thing. I don't own, we don't have a lot of land where we're at. As I said, we are in a neighborhood, but it is in a forest. The stream is not on my property. We are kind of in a suburban forest. There's deer, coyote, rabbits, wild rabbits, and other animals that live through here. So yeah, I can't put up that kind of thing. Yeah, I like the idea of solar power. We have a lot of trees here, though. I'm not sure how much of the day we'd get access to that. I don't know about bears, but we do get, like I said, coyotes, deer, owls, foxes. Yeah, I haven't heard about bears, though. We're not quite that far up north. We're closer to a bay here, and sea life. So, matter of fact, they've seen orcas out at the bays here. Yeah, so when I tell people I live amongst the land, sea, and sky, I literally mean that. Yeah, I'd have to think about that. Oh, goodness, look at the time. Oh, I hate to break this up, but I've been on here for quite some time, and we've gotten off the topic. It's very cool to meet you. Please look for me again. Feel free to comment on anything that I post. But it's getting kind of late for me here. And I probably need to go. But yeah, I believe in using alternative sources for energy. I think it's an awesome, should be accessed more, should be a priority and not the backup. Yeah, I think Mother Earth would appreciate that a lot. Matter of fact, if I talked about the kind of messages I got on that, people would, yeah. Well, big hugs to you. Thanks for hanging out for a bit. And you and others who have popped in, it was good to see you here. Anyone who watches this later, yeah, a bit of everything, but, you know, topic was Doreen Virtue. Move along on that. Let her go her way, go your way. She's not saying anything new that you haven't heard from conservatives before, so just let it go. That would be my advice. And just as a parting thing, yes, peace. Let's see what's, oh, I love this. The Lover's Stone, Soul Connection Crystal. I would say, if not lovers, just take in that love energy and connections that come from love and true connection into your heart, and release anything that isn't love. Okay? Because her love is with Jesus, but our love is elsewhere, perhaps. All right. Peace, everybody. Hugs to all, and sleep well if you're sleeping. Have a great day if you're getting up. And please give a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you like or dislike. And I will see you all soon with that impressions and review on the deck I originally meant to make a video for tonight. Bye-bye.